All right. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, guys. It is Zach with the first episode of No More Shelf Help. Really excited to get this started. And if you watched my last video, you guys know I am talking about Awaken the Giant Within. I just wish I could sound like Tony Robbins for like a day. I just want that voice for a day. Anyways, I literally just finished this book. Pumped out the last 20 pages or so. Let's just talk about a little bit of the nuts and bolts really quick about this book. Firstly, the author is Tony Robbins, this cat right here. He is a personal development coach, personal development coach. He actually talks about that specific. He was trying to find a word for what he did for a long time, and he finally settled on coach, because coach is someone who may not be better at something than you are, but they can help you get to that next level, and this is exactly what he does. A little bit of the nuts and bolts. He grew up in poverty. He got really into personal development, and by the late 80s, he had already built an amazing personal development empire. This book came out in 1991, the same year that I was born, almost 30 years ago. And one has to ask themselves, is this book still relevant in 2019? 30 years later, is there anything that seems outdated? Is there anything that seems maybe it's not applicable anymore? I would have to say, in my personal opinion, everything in this book applies to 2019 and applies in a timeless fashion, because the way he writes, I'll talk about that in a minute. Let's keep going with the nuts and bolts. So we're looking at a 165,920 word book. This book, I did the math, it's about 600 words per page. No joke, it's walls of text. Saying that though, it's a very compelling read and a very easy read too. The way Tony writes is for every man. There's not a whole lot of metaphor or anything like that. It's funny because there's a whole chapter about metaphor in this book. I set that down for now. So for the average reader reading at 250 words per minute, you're looking at 11 hours and 3 minutes to read about. I'm going to call BS on that, because this is not a passive read. This is very much a active read. So you're going to be doing a lot of journaling and a lot of work inside the book. There's places inside the book to do it. I almost feel like I shouldn't have written inside the book and just kept it in a journal, because I'm going to reread this book and I'll probably get something out of it and that's different down the road, So you expect for it to be a longer read. It took me about, I want to say, 10 days to read this book. I only missed about 2 days of reading in that 10 days. So 8 days for me to read this book, going at a fairly steady pace. But like I said, I was doing all the work with it all the way through. I think I missed one chapter's worth of work because I think I got distracted and had to cook dinner or something like that. Anyways, that's besides the point. The way the book is broken up into is 4 parts. And excuse me while I look to see exactly how many chapters. I believe it's 26 chapters, maybe 24. Oh, come on. 26 chapters. I was right the first time. 26 chapters. It has a kick-ass index in the back. It's a really, really good index. It's almost like a there's per word, right? And then there's like groupings of words too. It's a very, very nice index. You can find anything really quickly back there. But it's broken up into 4 parts. You're going to be spending most of your time while you're reading in the first 2 parts. I think that takes up about 400 pages out of the 533 that's in this book. In those first 2 parts, I'll talk about each part separately, but in those first 2 parts, you're going to be learning tools that you're going to be using to how to say this, tools that are going to help you make decision-making processes. The second part will be how to implement those tools in the decision-making process. I almost feel like breaking it up into 2 different parts was overkill, because it's a continuation of learning certain skills and applying them. But it does make sense why he did it, and I'll get to that in a moment. So the first part, you're learning all about each chapter is broken up in a specific way to learn a different thing to help you make decisions and choices in your life. Firstly, the first chapter really diving into this is a decision. What is a decision? Are you making a decision, or are you thinking about making a decision? Are you changing it from a must, or is it still staying a should? I should lose, another 10 pounds. Not I must lose another 10 pounds. That change of mentality is super powerful, and it's interesting how easily you'll forget, or how it's so easy to slip into that sort of mentality without even realizing it. You also, I'm just going to give you a brief overview of all these because there's quite a bit of information here. There's so much stuff. How to change your state immediately, how to affect change immediately. And he talks about different sciences used in this, and I've actually applied them to myself, where one, I work at a restaurant and I serve tables. If I have a bad moment, or if I'm doing dishes and I really don't want to be doing dishes, I can feel coming into a state that I don't want to be in. And a state is like an emotional state. And a lot of what we do is derived from these emotional states, correct? I mean, everything we do is derived from these emotional states. You will do more if you're in a positive emotional state. So, how to change your state immediately. He talks about submodalities, where you actually change how something looks in your mind's eye. And I do this really often because I feel like I have a pretty decent imagination, but I have a great imagination. But we'll talk about vocabulary in a second. He talks about the kinesthetics of a situation. My favorite thing now is if I have a bad situation and it's making me feel bad, I take that situation, I delete it, and then I come back with the exact same thing, except everything's pink and fuzzy, and it's hilarious, and it makes me laugh, and it instantly changes. It's called a pattern interrupt, and it instantly stop being in one state and you choose to be in another one, and it's fantastic. I mean, I cannot tell you how much it's changed my the last week of my life. It's really been great. Let's see here. What else can we talk about? How to use questions in an effective way to get to focus upon your end goal, right? Or to change, to use it as a pattern interrupt. I'll bring this one up again so that you can see the best parts of a bad situation. One of the best questions is when you're in a bad situation, ask yourself, how is this great right now? Try to find the silver lining of this cloud, and it's such a fantastic tool. It's such a fantastic tool to have. I just can't even, I don't have the words. I mean, I do have the words. They're all going at the same time. Let's see, what else? How to integrate your emotions, how to not just ignore your emotions or wear your negative emotions as a badge of honor, but how to like actually look at them, acknowledge that they're there, and then use them for the greatest good. You know, what can you learn from them? Because this whole book's about learning. You know, one of the best quotes in this, one of the best things that he says in this book, leaders are readers. You know, like if you really want to excel in your life, you have to be a continuous learner and you have to be a continuous reader, you know. Using positive vocabulary, not just like, changing the words that you use, you know, like saying, man, I really hate it when my kid leaves toys all over the living room. Instead, you could say, you know, I'd prefer it if he would clean up after himself, but, you know, he's like 2.5, so what are you gonna do? You're gonna help him, is what you're gonna do. Using certain metaphors, you know, how people say they're at the end of the rope, and they feel like the world's on their shoulders and stuff like that. You can simply change the words and it changes the view, your perception of it. You're changing your physiology so that your emotional state matches it. You know, it's all very, very interesting, very in-depth stuff, and he goes into very deep detail with it. Like I said, this is almost a 200,000 word book, and it's not. I mean, it's not a small book by any means. There's a lot of information on each page, you know. Another thing I love about this book is that there's things in bold, there's things in italicized. Anything that he wants you to see is going to be very apparent. And if you're a speed reader and a skimmer, you'll be able to get the most out of this book because he's got it like basically in neon lights for you to find. I love his writing style. It's very plain. This is a very well-read individual who's writing for the masses. You know, he wanted to affect as many people's lives as humanly possible, and he is able to with his writing style. It's so good. It's so I want to say plain, but it's not plain. There's a lot of passion and a lot of it's plain speak, you know. It's like anybody can understand it, but there's so much oomph and passion behind each word. It just bleeds out of the pages. So the second part of the book, let me get to that, would be how to implement those tools in what we call the master system. How are you going to, you know, take your state and how's that going to affect the questions you're going to ask? What beliefs do you have that are going to affect your decision-making process? Is it a pain or a pleasure? Are you getting more pleasure out of doing this? Or are you trying to avoid pain in a certain way too? And then your references too, which are things that you've experienced that you are applying to the situation too. So that whole section's just about utilizing this master system, which utilizes every single tool that you've learned already. I also have to say the pacing of this book is fantastic. The first 200 pages, right as you go from 99 to page 100, it's like he's rewarding you for, you know, reading. You have a new chapter. And it's great pacing, and the way he leads into other chapters is almost Dan Brown-esque, where you just want to keep reading. And I found myself reading for hours at a time with this book, and, you know, doing all the work too, because I think I got the most out of this book when I did the work. And I did all the work, except for maybe one chapter. I think it was my rules chapter, but that's fine. I'll do it eventually. The third part being is a 7-day challenge where he really wants you to focus on one element of each of these things and integrate it and do the work. I'm going to do the 7-day challenge starting on Monday. I'm very excited to get started with it. Let's see. And then the fourth part is a call to action where he talks about all the different things ailing the world and bringing into perspective that one person can make a huge change. And he's really calling one of his biggest things is contribution. Like, he had you write down all your goals, and one of them being your contribution goals. And one of my contribution goals is to be donating books. There's free libraries all over Eugene, and I'm every month I'm going to buy a book, a brand new one, leave a note on the inside cover, and not take a book, but just leave it. It's not a whole lot, but it's something I can do for sure right now, and I'm really excited to do that. I actually bought another copy of this, a brand new one, and I left it at one of the free libraries there, and I'm just so excited that it's going to hopefully affect a person as much as it affected me. This book has affected me in such powerful, awesome ways, and I cannot recommend it enough. I feel like everybody on the planet will have at least one thing to learn from this book. If I've helped you make a decision about this book, if you want to pick up a copy, there is a link down in the description. Go ahead and follow that link, and it will take you right to Amazon to get this book. It's going to be the cheapest way to get this book, unless you can dig around at a local like St. Vincent de Paul's or something like that. I'm always surprised if the book finds that I'll find at St. Vincent de Paul's. Oh, excuse me, getting risque here. There's books that I should have picked up there, but like it's always interesting to see what you can find at your local thrift store. Anyways, this has been the first episode of No More Shelf Help. I'm not positive what book I'm going to be doing next week. I really want to do How to Master Your Mean Girl, but I don't have a copy of it anymore. I have finished that book before. I may be doing one of my affiliate marketing books, because it's one of these things that I have and I'd like to dive into, and it's learning a new skill, and I think that's super important. And I really want to learn how to affiliate market. Anyways, I hope you guys have a fantastic day. I know mine's been really, really amazing, and I hope the rest of your week's really great too.